Welcome everyone to this public event, which is organized by the Master in Digital Fashion Communication, which is offered as a double degree by USI, Università della Svizzera Italiana, and Paris 1.1 Sorbonne University. And as some of you might know very well, so the public events are part of the study tours course, which unites several activities we organize together with students that helps them to understand better the fashion business. And we have organized already several public events from 2018 when we have launched this new master program. So today we'll have the sixth public event, and usually we have the invited guest speakers which are joining us in campus in Lugano. Today we will have this public event which is online, where our guest speakers, through their life and work experience, they provide both to the students of the master program, to our brand new alumni community. I saw today a couple of alumni that have joined the event as well, and to the general public, the inspiring and stimulating insights on how fashion intervenes with our society and shapes the surrounding environment. Before I will hand the word to Professor Lorenzo Cantoni, I would like to thank Alice Norris, our PhD candidate, to organize this event. Thank you, Alice. And yeah, without any further delay, I would like to invite Professor Lorenzo Cantoni, who is the co-director of the master program, who will introduce our speakers, the topic, and at a later stage, as you have already heard, will moderate the discussion. So enjoy this public event and enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nadia, and I'm very happy and thrilled to present our speakers tonight. I met Erin Rose a few days ago, together with the CEO of the Surreal company, and I was so excited listening to the great things they are doing, which are fully in line with our approach to digital fashion communication, having on the one side an eye on the new emerging technologies, and on the other side, considering the long-term, la longue durée, the long-term processes. And so also Surreal has a focus also on heritage and how digital technologies can help to present heritage, intangible heritage, fashion, as well as gaming. So this is the topic. So gaming in and fashion, or better, fashion in and gaming. And we have two presenters. Erin Rose Sullivan, she is the director of heritage within Surreal, while Amal Juma, she is the director of the fashion sector. So I'm inviting Erin Rose and Amal to introduce briefly themselves, and then to do the presentation. Will be around 45 minutes or so. And in the meanwhile, please type in the chat your questions, and then we will have an extensive session for Q&A. So thanks a lot, Erin Rose and Amal, for joining us tonight, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'll start with my introduction. I've just turned my camera on for a moment for you all to know I'm real, I'm not so real or virtual, a real person. So my name is Erin Rose, and I work at Surreal in Cultural Heritage. My work experience has always been the cross-section of art and technology. I've come from many, many, many years in the gaming industry, really looking at not only how do you build great experiences, but actually from a consumer perspective, how do we create amazing and immersive stories that people want to experience. So this, I feel, is a really strong crossover. And as I will talk to you all, I've sort of been informed that most of you aren't gamers. I would challenge that. I've bet you all have some version of a game or another on your phone, and probably have had a Nintendo of some version in your lifetime. So I'll talk a bit about gaming, and we will bring you to the world how fashion and in gaming connect. And now I'll hand it over to my colleague Amal. Amal, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone. I was on mute. I apologize. I am so thrilled to be speaking to all of you today. Thank you to all the organizers for this exciting event. My name is Amal Juma. I am the head of fashion at SoReal. My background is in fashion design, so I did my bachelor's degree in fashion design and worked as a designer and pattern maker, and later on combined my curiosity and love for technology with fashion, as I did my master's in Politecnico di Milano, where I got exposed to all the different technologies that were in use, and virtual design creation and this kind of virtual world was really, to me, where I fell in love with fashion and technology, and I pursued a career in that sector later on. And now I'm at SoReal, and we have prepared this incredible insight into where technology and fashion merge together to create this incredible experience, and to bring customers into craft and to witness really the essence and the value in fashion.
So I'm going to share my screen with everybody, and I will sort of lead the conversation, and Amal will interject to sort of add richness to certain areas. Okay, so just bear with me as I get my screen ready to share with you. Amal, can you confirm that you can see this?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Oh, good.
So we'll be sharing with you in terms of a subject overview, talking about visual identity, 3D today, consumer behavior, and specifically video games. And then we'll talk about a number of case studies that we feel really highlight and really explicate what's happening and what's possible, and maybe, you know, some sort of watch outs as well. And finally, the opportunities, taking these use cases, these case studies, and actually building upon that, because the future is broad and wide, as we will explore this evening. So without further ado, let me hop into a couple things. So talking about visual identity. Now, you know, this is all your sort of bread and butter in the experience of fashion communication, but really it is the baseline for any brand going forward. Design creation and design communication are really two sides of the same equation. Obviously, design creation is about establishing those stylistic codes, the visual language and values, while incorporating trends, and while remaining true to that real core mission of the brand. Design communication, on the other side, is really translating all that nuance to the end consumer. So it's really important that these are sort of running in tandem, that the core comprehension and these elements are really incorporated in really the substance behind the brand. Once you have a misalignment there, everything starts to fall apart. And it's really key to have this, you know, this visual identity, this core going into any type of communication experience out there. And it's quite critical going into the game space and this sort of, at least within the fashion, how it sees it, this sort of new and exciting storytelling world. On the other side of this, the other sort of pillar going into the world of gaming and fashion in and around gaming is 3D. Now, 3D is, I'm sure you all have to have some sort of interaction with the tools and the technologies that are developing and are innovating the world of fashion and design. But 3D objects are created with specialist software, and they allow you to create a 3D sort of dimensional design, or rather a mesh of your work. And it allows you to capture, you know, the textures and effects to get a photorealistic render without the physical production behind it. Now, as much as this has been around for like 50, 60 years, it's relatively new into the designing space. But it's been something that's been part of games for decades. But it's really become critical because, as you're starting to see in all of the companies like Clo and 3D design, that this is really quite, you're starting to see this sort of emergence of the virtual world and the importance of 3D design sort of becoming an integral part of fashion, not only from a sampling and into the PLM, but really to the end consumer, as we'll be seeing. Another thing we'll be looking at, and it's key, is really understanding consumer behavior. And I'll be elaborating on this further, but what we've talked about here are millennials, and these are probably a lot of you are young millennials in the group. And it's quite interesting and important to always understand the people, the person, the personas you're talking to, and understanding what their behavior is, what's influencing their behavior, what is their world. So particularly when we look at millennials, these are generally, again, these are sort of broad lines, and it tends to be of a Western mindset approaching this. This is different in, in East Asian markets and the like, but they tend to be born between 1980 to 1994. They're digital natives, meaning they've grown up with the technology and how, social media is a way of connecting further and in their lives. So this is quite important to understand. We've highlighted here Generation Alpha. Now, Generation Alpha is actually the children of the millennials. I'll be talking about Gen Z that sit in between. These are probably like the younger siblings of the students here on the phone, on the call. But if we look at Generation Alpha, these are really what you could consider the children of millennials, and they're like 2 steps beyond us, millennials, Generation Z, because they are virtual natives. They will be growing up with, having augmented reality as part of their reality, with virtual reality headsets available and being used and being consumed. So they are experiencing things and having experiences with technology that is really going to be, it's actually going to be influencing everything that you and I do in terms of experiences that we'll be creating. So we're going into an exciting broad future into the metaverse, as we'll be talking further. So, but as I talk about the millennials and Gen Alpha, as I said before, there's the Gen Z that's sort of experiencing everything hard and fast right now as well, and is going to be an increasingly important audience as they grow and mature as fashion consumers and fashion deciders, fashion influencers, and really as we see with their expectations that sit a little bit differently from millennials. And before I start getting into games, I pulled up a quote here of Nicolas Ghesquière of Louis Vuitton, and really, and we'll see they're quite at the forefront in the many ways that they are engaging, like it's fashion and gaming and fashion in gaming, what they have, been achieving. And as he says, it's fascinating, the frontier where fantasy begins and reality ends. And I really think this is what we'll be exploring this evening. Now, I don't want to bore you with a lot of facts and figures, and I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty detail of this slide, but I think it's important to realize that the gaming industry has been around for more than 50 years, and it has really grown from strength to strength, going from arcades, where we probably have all been in an arcade, to handhelds in the late 80s, early 90s, to the growth of consoles in home, to the ubiquitousness of mobile phones and people owning them and playing games all around the world. So this is an industry that is on its way to surpassing 200 billion by 2023 and has largely surpassed 175 billion in 2020. And obviously for gaming, this is, not only is it already a juggernaut in terms of a revenue driving business, COVID has driven more and more people to play games because of the confinement around the world. Because when people were so limited of what they were able to do, they discovered escapism, social engagement, connection through gaming. Even the World Health Organization, which the year earlier, back in 2019, had said gaming was addictive and should be reduced. I don't think they used the word prevented, but heavily reduced, to switching 1 year later, saying and starting a campaign, playing together apart. So really recognizing that ability to connect with people through gaming was a really vital thing for socialization and sort of even mental health for people. So we're really at a point where this new growth phase can have wide implications even for the fashion industry, because consumers are at home, they're playing games, it's accelerating digital trends faster than anyone expected. And again, this is having ramifications on how businesses will be done, not only during this crisis, but after the crisis. And I think in many ways, we will find people, as we'll see, there's an excitement in the space of fashion, because in many ways, social media feels tired and homogenized, and game creating is, allows you to dream up and produce truly original concepts that will entertain and delight and captivate millions of people. So again, what am I talking about with all these gamers? Well, we have really players all over the world. There are about 3 billion people playing games. And this is, we look in Asia Pacific alone, it's 1.5 billion. Across Europe, we've got over 390 million. So gamers are everywhere. We can't avoid it, whether we'd like to or not. And equally, and I get questions saying, okay, but maybe it's not, it's the male audience. Well, no, in fact, we're all gamers now. Over 46% of gamers are female. And actually, if we look at mobile gaming, it's actually a little bit more female than it is male. And this is, women's sessions, even playing games on mobile, are longer than men's. And women tend to spend more in game compared to men by like 40%. And this is, again, this is an important point for the fashion industry when we start to think of things becoming virtual and wanting to engage. So as we're communicating, how we can communicate into these spaces where is a new socialization is occurring. And if we look even further, in terms of where people are spending their time, if we look at millennials and Generation Z, they are spending more than a quarter of their time playing some form of game media. So if it's PC games, if it's mobile games, or even watching game-generated content, they are somehow connected to games. So it's not something that can be ignored. And I would challenge in this space, gaming is becoming a final piece in the puzzle for fashion to become more democratic. And we'll look at that a little bit further as we see how they are engaging. As we look at Generation Z, as I'm saying, why it matters is because Generation Z, 98% own mobile phones. They have a combined spending power of over $143 billion annually. They are more connected to the internet and more connected. They're more online than anyone else, about 10 or more hours a day. And really, where they connect is through things like Twitch, Discord, as well as other live streaming and social apps. So it's, again, incredibly in the interest of everyone to be following this audience and going where they go and creating experiences that are going to excite and delight them in their world. Because as I mentioned, as I challenged earlier, this is the final piece to make even luxury fashion more democratic. Social media made luxury fashion maybe more accessible and maybe more visible, but it wasn't necessarily available. And what we'll start to see are examples where, as much as luxury fashion might not be affordable in the real world, as we come into the game and into the virtual, it has the ability to make luxury available to everybody. as well as all forms of fashion. And as I've been talking about these social networks, it's, again, we talk about gaming and social networks, but we should actually be also talking about gaming as social networks. So now I'm sure most of you are familiar with Twitch, which is another gaming platform where people watch other people play games. Or it's mostly about watching gameplay, or people play esports, meaning, you know, successful gaming. We also have TikTok, where you see a lot of people engaging in those spaces. Some are gamers, they're showing their gameplay in there as well. We also have YouTube gaming, and we have Discord, where you have lots of discussions happening. But there are also things like, and I'm sure you heard, Animal Crossing last year. Last summer, that dropped right in the middle of the pandemic, and you had everybody playing this game. And not only were people playing, fashion took notice as well. Marc Jacobs had an island in there. Prada had an island showing previous collections and new collections. It was an opportunity to share in a different way, in a fun way, in an engaging way, where they knew their audience would be. You also have Fortnite, and we'll talk more about Fortnite, as well as Avakin Life. Avakin Life is a type of Second Life, Sims type of game on mobile, where you build your world and you can choose the latest fashions, where you have a lot of fashion designers showing their collections through that you can purchase for your character, your avatar. And then, of course, Roblox. And Roblox we'll talk about a little bit further. Roblox may look like a child's game, but Roblox is a beast that landed on the stock market yesterday and is being valued at $29 billion. And in this game, you create your own games within the game. And gamers within this game are creating their own games and making money with their games. Some are making millions of dollars by other people playing their games and buying in-app purchases in the game. Some people are making money making hairstyles and designing clothes in the game for other people to wear. So this is a reality that's coming, and really is a really strong opportunity for fashion, and is currently happening. So without further ado, we'll start to talk about some of who's doing what in this space, and why, and what's happening, and what's exciting, and maybe what's some a little bit more pedestrian, others are truly original concepts. But again, pushing the envelope to engage with these audiences, because the key point is really having the opportunity to weave interesting and engaging stories in a natural and authentic way. And it allows fashion companies to become more relevant, culturally relevant to their audiences, because you have to go and engage where your audience is in a way that's going to delight, maybe surprise, but surely be authentic. So the first case I want to talk about is Louis Vuitton. And Louis Vuitton, they've started quite a while ago. Back in 2016, Louis Vuitton signed up the pink-haired protagonist Lightning from Final Fantasy, which is a cult game from Japan, as their campaign star. And they really considered her to be the perfect avatar for a global heroic woman. And in a world where social networks and communications are seamlessly woven into our life. So really, it was quite an interesting choice for Louis Vuitton to take on such a cult figure in gaming. And over the last 2 years, Louis Vuitton has also signed on for a two-year contract with the brand and game Fortnite. Now, Fortnite is, League of Legends, another big game. League of Legends, one of the biggest games in the world that has huge worldwide competitions. They designed 2 custom skins for the heroes Chiana and Senna in League of Legends. And then they made these skins. Skins are clothing in the game, and people were able to buy the clothing in the game through in-game tokens. And so that means really that anybody in the game could afford, if you can't afford to buy Louis Vuitton in the real world, which as we see there, a bandeau would range from $170 to a $5,600 leather jacket. In the game, you could experience it for about $10 and have that the kind of clout or style and feeling that comes with that. And again, this partnership really involved creative, brand storytelling. It wasn't just to put the monogram on virtual clothes, but they really created an authentic and stylistic character outfits that really reflected the characters in the games that they were making them for. It wasn't just like a stick-on experience. And I think it's really important. That's a really important point to take away from Louis Vuitton. And it's really been, they've gone even beyond that. And I haven't highlighted it here, but they've actually reached out to the esports teams because they believe the esports gamers, so gamers that compete around the world to play League of Legends, they support a number of teams around the world, and they provide some clothing for that and design specific team outfits. But they've also designed the cup, the trophy case and the trophy cup. And that exposed them to over 100 million unique viewers around the world. So that's an unprecedented reach for a luxury fashion brand. So really, they see this as a great opportunity of continuing to generate awareness into these new audiences in a relevant manner. The next case I want to talk about is the Fabricant. And I'm not sure if you've heard of the Fabricant, but it is a digital fashion house that's leading in the industry towards the new sector of digital-only clothing. They really believe they are the future where fashion transcends the physical body, and our digital identities will permeate daily life to become the new reality, kind of in the metaverse. And so they're really challenging a lot of notions of the real and virtual. So if we look at, and you may have heard of this, this last fall, the 7,500 pound dress that doesn't exist, that made many waves. So really it was a one-of-a-kind dress, and we're seeing a lot more examples of this now, but this really was the first one-of-a-kind digital-only garment that the Fabricant sold. And it's a collectible item, it's tradable, and it's really a type of digital art that not only probably gained a lot of visibility for this man and his company, but again, for the Fabricant. Equally, they are behind, and I'm sure you've heard of this as well, the virtual version of Buffalo London's fashion classic sneaker that uses the 3D capacity to the fullest by flames that are only visible when you are looking at it through AR. So again, they're really challenging the notions of what's possible, and really what's anything is really possible once it goes virtual. Gucci has been doing a number of things. Gucci, you probably heard they did their Gucci Retro Arcade. They play around with even sort of modeling virtual models, I would say to a less strong extent, but they really are trying numerous experiences to connect with new audiences in novel and innovative ways. I think it's quite interesting. They worked with Snap over the summer to show off 4 pairs of shoes and have a try on for potential buyers. That had a huge reach for them. Not only PR, but also the huge reach of people experiencing it, the lens time, playtime amongst people on Snap, and really had a really great boost for them. And again, exposing the brand to potentially a new audience to try things on virtually that they might not be able to do otherwise. Or, even just in this case, people having it virtually and having the real thing as well. And you've seen some experimentation in that space a little bit as well with some other brands. They've also done some interesting things with the North Face Gucci collaboration, where they also worked with Pokemon. So I'm sure you've all heard of Pokemon, and you might have got caught up in the phase a few years ago, though it still continues now with Pokemon Go. But really creating things, collectibles out there with Gucci pins. There were pop-up shops that appeared in parks and stores that people could experience, and had those limited time avatar items that really added to a fun and engaging Pokemon experience. We also have Carlings, or it's Carlings, I'm not sure how you pronounce it. Actually, another one relates to that is Moschino's done quite a bit of work of a partnership with The Sims. The Sims is an EA brand. It's kind of like a Second Life experience with your Sim characters. They not only created in-game collections of clothing for people to download and play with, they also created the real-life equivalent capsule collection with hoodies retailing from about 350 pounds. So, and they actually were inspired by the game to create like bathing suits with the plumb bob, which is like the green triangle diamond that floats over the Sims heads, in their swimsuits, and created a pixelated biker bag. So again, not only stamping the Moschino brand on things, but actually integrating into the experiences and bringing it out, so that balance back and forth. Carlings is, I believe, catch me if I'm wrong, Mel, is a Swedish brand, a Scandinavian. Yes, they're a Scandinavian brand, and they, in 2018, developed a digital collection for download for, you could dress in their digital items that would perfect fit for you. So they were really challenging us a couple years back that you could have the digital item to dress yourself. Excuse me, I've got numerous windows popping open as I speak to you. And again, they've even done augmented reality T-shirts that actually, when you go to look at it, you point your camera to it, or your phone camera, the message would change in your animated design, and that actually would be changing with each day. So it's like almost a living T-shirt that they're not only, you don't only buy the T-shirt, Carlings is actually engaging and creating a T-shirt that will continue to live, to continue to express as it goes forward. And it's almost that discovery with something. It's almost like geo-catch of finding something where you think nothing is. So it's quite an interesting approach with these T-shirts. We also have Balenciaga, who's done some interesting work. This past year, they were involved in creating a VR experience, and I think, though you only could receive the VR, it's for a sort of closed group of people, which is unfortunate, because if you try to experience it through the traditional sort of PC experience and through your monitor, it took away from the experience, I would say. Sometimes when you try to interact with gaming or gamify something, I think you really need to ensure you're bringing your best. And I think sometimes there's a mistaken understanding that gaming is a very rich space that requires animators, designers, level designers, artists, storytellers. There are huge teams behind games, and games cost a lot to make, and it's something to not step into lightly and believe they can be realized easily and quickly, because it's really, gaming is something between an art form. It's driven by the art, the technology, and the passion of the creators and the audiences that engage with it. So it's really not something to step into lightly, to think that can be recreated in a manner not by sort of professional game teams that understand timelines, productions, and the like, in a similar way of putting together shows in fashion. These are big beasts to engage with, particularly big brands, and they should be sort of respected as such, and recognizing the challenges that might be involved with that. So those are some key things to talk about, but it's quite interesting. There's other examples of things like Dressed, and this is really a type of app where you're actually designing sort of putting together and styling a virtual model with digital versions of clothing. And this is another experience that's, again, taking, almost gamifying the world of styling. So we're going to see more and more of that. And that, again, finds ways to expose brands to an audience in a way, or it has the opportunity and possibility of bringing your audience much closer to your brand in a more intimate way than they might otherwise do. Particularly now, as I mentioned earlier, social media has become quite homogenized and sterile and sort of limited. The world of gaming has sort of is wide open in that sense. So the examples I've walked you through, I think can fall in like things I talk about casual gaming, and that's where I think something like a Pokemon would sit, The Sims might sit, have Moschino, where you have things like League of Legends tends to sit in something a little bit more core games, meaning more sort of, core game where you have more, it's more competitive. And then sort of what I talk about an external versus an integrated connection. External meaning sort of sitting on the outsides of the gaming experience in a certain manner, whereas integrated means starts to be coordinated with the game itself. So just sort of ways you can imagine how those experiences develop. So what does this mean? So I've shown you these examples. I've laid the groundwork of sort of a changing world and where audiences are and how to engage with them. So how can we imagine these opportunities? Well, AR is an increasingly good way to engage with people. It's still novel, and I'm always surprised when I see sort of young people experiencing AR for the first time. They're quite surprised, but it's becoming more and more. It's becoming more and more common, and will be, because even from an e-commerce perspective, we see in the data it increases sales, it increases customer engagement. Shoppers are more likely to add items to their carts after interacting with it in some sort of 3D capacity. And visitors are more likely to place an order after interacting with a product in AR. So creating that ability, if it's in e-commerce, or even being able to experiencing it otherwise through through a game that's creating augmented reality, this is going to create a greater desire and further desire for engagement with your key audience. And a similar line is a virtual reality experience. And that, again, is creating something to get closer to your products, your fashion line. And I saw something today with the brand that's been done with the London Fashion Institute called not Patagonia, but Pagina or something. It's about their fluff.
Pangaya.
Pangaya, thank you.
Pangaya and NM Aksar just released this beautiful, beautiful Alaskan VR experience. I really encourage you to go online and look for that case study, because it is just stunning.
Exactly. And that's really, I mean, you see that, and like and again, I didn't get to experience the Balenciaga experience, and I haven't experienced this Pangaya one, but the video for the Pangaya one, what they've looked to achieve with it, so beautiful and so exciting. So again, they've taken those elements, and I would say they've created this gamified experience to bring you closer, to interact with, to desire, and to respect not only what they create, but their process, their sustainability, and all these things. It's brought it together in such a beautiful and natural way. So as Amal said, we encourage you to take a look at that. The hybrid and digital physical. This is really to take that experience into store, to drive traffic to brick and mortar, because actually we're seeing Gen Z still likes to, they actually seem to be more than millennials. They like to go to store to buy things. Just saying, so if you can actually bring experiences together and create some sort of, as we say here, a serendipitous purchasing moment in store, but layering that physical and digital, could be something. It's augmenting. It's sort of like augmenting the world around, which I think is something to consider. Viral content, obviously creating, cinematic VF effects, creating holistic cross-platform content creation, really thinking how the experiences you are creating will allow for maybe your consumers or audience to engage with or build upon, or want to break up. It's always like, how do you make a content that's shareable and actually buildable, that creates some sort of user generation? And there's just so many more ways through augmentation. There's so many ways through filters. There's so many ways, again, through sort of in gaming and around, or sort of augmenting your own thinking with that lens, that will be really valuable as you imagine creating content that will itself become viral. And now I'm not sure how much familiarity you have with digital tokens, but it's surely definitely the talk of the moment, particularly in the art space right now, as well as with these sneakers we've highlighted here. But digital tokens are really, as we talk about non-fungible tokens, which are really virtual products that are auctioned off like via blockchain. This particular pair of sneakers here by RTFKT Studios was like, has had phenomenal growth on its own through a number of sort of activities. But this, like, was it last week, I believe, this this collaboration with the crypto artist Ferocious, an 18-year-old, again, we're in really youthful spaces, with a rapidly rising profile in the digital space. They collaborated to create this this sneaker and like a digital charm. The sneaker, sold for 3.1 million, and the charm, I guess, for like over 88,000. And of course, the person who got the sneaker also, gets a real one, but they really say like the value is in the digital pair. The real value is the digital pair. It's not actually the physical real life pair of sneakers. So, I mean, wrap your head around that one. Like, we're crossing the Rubicon that, yeah, you have the real one, but it's actually going to have more creed having the digital version of it, because you're going to go into a lot more spaces potentially through your AR, your app filters, your metaverses of games you might be playing, where you're sitting and socializing with people online. This maybe in a Zoom call, you're wearing a hat that you can only see through a Zoom call. This is how these things are advancing and developing. And of course, finally, it's about sustainability. Creating a type of digital experience, be it augmented reality, be it virtual reality, the footprint's smaller. Of course it is. We're talking a digital t-shirt is the equivalent of a quarter of a kilo versus a real t-shirt. It's 90%, 7% reduction in that carbon impact. So, and as we talk about these audiences, particularly Gen Z, this is a critical issue that they're looking at, and they're wanting that transparency, and wanting to have insurance of sustainability. And even to the point, I would even argue in the space of sustainability, there's sort of like challenges. Some forecasters are suggesting, not only digital only outfits may be more satisfying than, the in real life version, because they're, negating the need to keep consuming. And though other brands say maybe it's about selling designs or patterns directly to shoppers, maybe we're going to see this sort of like something's going really digital, and at the same time people are looking to re-own, again, we talk about repurposing, upcycling, and imagining differently, and that relationship changing as well. So that's sort of, I would say, even a challenge differently in this space. So these opportunities I've been talking about, and I'm sorry I seem to be talking on, I'm almost done. We've talked about, how this all fits. It's about creating hybrid experiences, augmented reality, virtual reality. It can be tokenized through an NFT. It ensures sustainability. It helps provide you content to feed all like the beast of the media and the forever cycle of desire for information. But also with that mind of cost and speed, how do you manage that? So obviously from our space, we create digital twins, and this is where we find ourselves sitting, that link between the real and the virtual, that link that allows you to create an augmented reality experience, that twin that allows you to create virtual reality, to be tokenized, to be the content in a game, to be the content even in a film. So that's what we produce, and that's how we're sort of helping in the fashion industry, not only even in the earlier stages of production lifecycle management and virtual sampling, but really to this end towards the communication, the marketing, the relevancy for brands, and actually retail and commerce. So our final thing is how we do this is we're changing the world through our techniques and technologies, because frankly, it's not going to be good enough having a 3D model on its own. It's not going to be good enough to have, a photo. People want explosions. They want to see how it works. They want to see how it fits on. They want to interact with things. And what we're able to do is provide that, material properties for those simulations, for those games, for those experiences that push the envelope, because we're not only going to be pushing the envelope, we're going to be in this new world where we expect everything to not only to possibly be in the real world, but to definitely have a digital or virtual twin. So I think I want to end on this last point, because I think, again, I want to challenge popular thinking. The next Coco Chanel is probably a 10-year-old girl who is currently creating avatar skins in Roblox. And this is from futurist Kathy Hackle. And I really couldn't agree more. I've said there are girls in there. There are 2 major designers doing hairstyles, and they sell hair in Roblox. And I think these are the spaces where we'll be looking for our new designers, and their approach will be different, because they will be having one foot in the real and one foot in the virtual or the metaverse. So with that, I say thank you, and we are open to your questions.
Erin Rose, thank you so much for your presentation.